100 alters in one mind. Something complex may be going on beneath the surface. So, what do you think of when you think of polyfragmentation? For many, it's over 100 alters, or a lot of fragments, or multiple subsystems or side systems. But those things on their own do not make a system inherently polyfragmented. Polyfragmentation has a lot more to do with the complexity beneath the surface of why those things exist. There are complex splitting patterns. Systems splitting multiple alters to deal with different parts of a single event, or for different events that are only minutely different from each other, typically having a very low split tolerance and splitting rather frequently. And these alters are regularly not fully elaborated, as they may hold only a small sliver of what happened during traumatic events, and may be stuck in that specific memory as they were never intended to help with anything else that the system would need. Of course, that doesn't mean that elaborated alters do not exist in the system. For DID and some forms of OSDD, elaborated alters must be present for the diagnosis. And polyfragmentation most regularly occurs in those with DID. There's also a lot of complexity in the inner worlds of those who are polyfragmented, for those who do have inner worlds, with a lot of subsystems, side systems, and layers. A subsystem is when an individual alter has their own alters. A side system is a separate area of the inner world that is split off from the main section of the inner world, typically with significant barriers between them preventing some level of communication. These subsystems and side systems can also be split up into different layers. Each of these three things can have their own function within the system. They may hold specific memories or emotions or specific periods of the person's life, and members of each may work together to fulfill specific roles. But of course, every system is different, so polyfragmentation may present differently for one system than it does for another's. Polyfragmentation is also usually associated with more severe forms of trauma, though this is not a requirement. It's important to keep in mind that trauma is the response, not the event. An event that is not traumatic to one person may be significantly traumatic to another. The event doesn't need to seem bad enough to be bad enough. It's also important to note that the trauma that causes complex dissociative disorders can be based in smaller seeming, inescapable, traumatic events that occur over a long period of time. It doesn't require big events to have a big impact. So let's get into how polyfragmentation presents for us and how we discovered our subsystems and side systems. So we have a very low split tolerance, which is compounded by the fact that we usually split in pairs since our brain has an aversion to odd numbers. We also have a significant number of fragments, most of which we don't know anything about. we have multiple alters that basically do the same role just within a different context. And we have 5 subsystems and 6 side systems. So starting with the subsystems, we have Mia's subsystem, which is known as the shifting city subsystem, which presents a bit differently from the rest of our subsystems since Mia is our front-bound host. So the members of her subsystem don't fully switch with her, just like the members of the rest of the system don't fully switch with her. The 2 other members of the subsystem are Lillian and Rachel, and the subsystem works to hold and process fear separate from the rest of the system. Then we have Eternity, which consists of Renee and Constance, who work to manage and process situations related to change. And the other 3 subsystems are basically just an alter and their personal protector. One consisting of Firefly and Sam, the second consisting of Victoria and Katie, and the last one consisting of Veronica and Midnight. Now let's talk about the side systems. The first side system exists in the sky, which is also where all of our fragments exist. The main secret keeper and gatekeeper for the side system being Astra, and other alters that exist there being La Luna, Moonbeam, Dawn, Dusk, and Twilight. And 3 other alters, Lunaria, Ember, and Raven, all have access to the side system but are not members of it. And we discovered that side system existed through, shower thoughts. Our brain decided that was the perfect time to info dump on us. Basically just planting the idea in our mind that these stars were fragments, and then we went on a deep dive from there and started learning more about it. Then we have the side system to the north, which Ursa is the secret keeper and gatekeeper for. Daniel and Natasha came from that side system and are now part of the main system. And we learned about that side system because Ursa is terrible about keeping secrets when she fronts when we're asleep. And she literally had a dream about accessing that side system and meeting Daniel for the first time. So that's how we learned what's going on over there, and how we figured out that that side system is most likely our childhood inner world. The east side system is where our violent persecutors exist. There used to not be a barrier between them and the main system before our inner world reconstructed. And a lot of those changes with the inner world had to do with us moving away from a lot of our abusers. So barriers may have been put in place because their role was less necessary. I'm not sure though. But the 2 persecutors we know of that live there are Havoc and the Demon. And Liam spends a significant amount of time there as our primary internal protector. We still don't know much about the southern side system beyond the fact that it exists. Ginger is the secret keeper and gatekeeper for it, and we have seen the silhouettes of cats in that general vicinity, so potentially cat-related alters over there, but we're still not sure as we haven't met anyone from that side system. And to the west, there are two side systems. The first is the Underwater Kingdom, which is mostly made up of mermaids, who are the main gatekeepers and secret keepers for the west. These consist of Melody, Harmony, Aria, Selena, Simon, and Marina. Then, in the ocean, we also have the Fantasy Island side system. As we have been integrating that side system more recently, Christopher J. Hawkins has been helping us with communication between the side system and the main system. Members of the Fantasy Island side system include Brielle, Charlotte, Diana, Comet, Orion, Freedom, Morgan, Skylar, Stella, Violet, Daisy, Marigold, Poppy, Rose, and Willow. Erica's family also existed as part of this side system, those alters being Emily, Crystal, Garnet, and Sapphire, but they have since joined the main part of our system. The Fantasy Island mainly has our childhood interjects, as our brain focused on having the main part of the system being the most elaborated and functional brain-made alters. And there is now a second island forming off of the Fantasy Island, which is our brain's interpretation of Hisi Island from Genshin, which currently contains Celine and Luna. We learned about the Western side system when our brain decided we were ready to integrate with it more, and Melody fronted and basically info dumped everything on us. So that is how our polyfragmented system exists. If any other polyfragmented systems want to share their experiences in the comments, we would love to read it. Or if you have any questions about polyfragmentation, feel free to also leave those in the comments down below. Please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. You can learn more about our inner world in our video up here, or check out more of our educational content in our playlist down here. We hope you enjoyed the video and look forward to seeing you in the next one.